Bron Breakker betrays Seth Rollins? The real behind-the-scenes reasons it happened. And my review of Monday Netflix Raw. I'm Ollie Davis, and this is the WrestleTalk News.
Support WrestleTalk!
Give us a subscribe. Saturday's Crown Jewel PLE in Australia was a great night for the Vision. Bronson Reed beat Roman Reigns in the show's opener, and after 3 consecutive losses to Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins finally beat him in a match to decide who was the future of the company and the most dominant champion, and who gets to wear a ring, and who gets to briefly hold the comically over-decorated Crown Jewel belt before it goes back to a Saudi Arabian vault, and, of course, something about a watch. Just 6 days beforehand, Paul Heyman had warned Rollins that if he lost the match, the rest of the Vision, Breakker, Reed, and even Heyman himself could betray him. Seth winning thankfully put that insecurity to rest. But that turns out that is a terribly emotionally healthy thing to do, because then Bron Breakker speared him in the closing of Raw. See, therapists? If anything, I should be more hyper-vigilant. It was a shocking moment made all the more surprising by Triple H's reluctance to book any major angles outside of the January to April period. And the real reason behind Breakker's even more heel turn has come out from the unlikeliest of sources. A mathematics professor. So let me break it down for you dummies that don't understand what just happened. You take Seth Rollins, the so-called visionary, and you put him in a ring with Bron Breakker, a genetic freak. But what Seth didn't calculate was the betrayal quotient. Now let's do the math. Seth thought he had a 100% chance of survival with Bron at his side. But what he didn't know is that Bron's got a 66 to 2/3% loyalty when you factor in family bloodlines. And the other 33% is pure rage. So now Seth's sitting there asking, why? I'll tell you why. Because Bron Breakker's not here to play backup. He's here to take over. He's the dog-faced destroyer, and now the leash is OnlyFans. Off. So Seth, you took your eye off the math. You had 141 2/3% chance of getting betrayed, and now you're just another statistic in the Steiner equation of pain. And it all spells disaster for possibly real injuries behind the scenes. The Wrestling Observer, PW Insider, and Fightful have all reported the non-maths reason for Breakker turning on Seth. WWE's original plans for the Vision had them staying together as an act at least through WrestleMania. This would have included a Vision vs. Bloodline War Games match for next month's Survivor Series, where, weirdly, a returning from injury Austin Theory was reportedly going to join Seth's group. Luke and I have been speculating that one of the big Mania matches would be Rollins vs. Reigns, with Reigns going through the rest of the Vision faction to get to him. Fightful and Self-Made PW have both reported that Breakker's split was originally planned for 2026. But instead of staying together for a year, the Vision broke up in a little over 6 months. And it's seemingly because Seth is injured. PW Insider first reported that the Breakker betrayal angle was necessitated by Seth Rollins suffering an injury at Crown Jewel Perth. Fightful adds that it was a heavy creative pivot. Heavy creative pivot, title of your next PLE. Apparently, Seth injured his left arm or shoulder during the coast-to-coast headbutt dive spot in his match against Cody. He was seen with his arm in a sling the following day. And Fightful adds that Seth even said that move would have long-lasting ramifications. Rollins was reportedly put over strong backstage for how he then not only finished the match on Saturday, but how he also did a promo, backstage segment, and physical beatdown angle on Monday's Raw. He was said to be wearing even more obnoxiously baggier clothes than normal to hide his injury. One of Fightful's WWE sources has hoped the injury is Seth has broken his arm rather than injured his shoulder, because a relatively clean arm break could mean a shorter recovery time than the usually way more complicated shoulder joint. If it is a simple broken bone, there's a chance Seth could be back by December. They'll find out more when he undergoes testing over the next few days, so until then, from all of us here, get better soon, Seth. Unless it's all a work. Now, I'm not saying it is a work. If I had to put a percentage on it, I'd say I'm 93 1/3% sure this is an unfortunate legitimate injury. But this isn't the first time WWE have called wolf this year. In fact, it's not even the first time they've called wolf with Seth Rollins. Just 3 months ago, on the 12th of July's Saturday night's main event, the match between Rollins and LA Knight seemingly had to rush to a finish when Seth appeared to legitimately injure himself. It came out very quickly that this was a work, despite WWE pretending it was the biggest ruse ever when Seth cashed in his Money in the Bank briefcase totally fine 6 weeks later at SummerSlam. Oh well, nevertheless, Bill Goldberg. Despite John Pollock and the Wrestling Observer revealing it was a work, WWE continued to tell their own staff and roster that Seth's injury was real. And now the Wrestling Observer are reporting on his newest injury. Many are not fully believing anything right now. In the attempt to work everyone, the belief in what those are being told, and there are multiple cases of this in recent months, the Rollins Saturday night's main event injury being the one that really cost credibility with several in the room, the lack of trust right now is pretty high. Because there is one other reason that could have led to the shock breaker betrayal. And it's a pattern we've seen over and over again throughout the decades in pro wrestling. It could be a knee-jerk reaction to bad ratings. 2 weeks ago, Nielsen changed the way they record TV viewership, now incorporating smart TV viewership data. You can watch my explainer on how that all works and what it means for wrestling by clicking the link in the video description below. Everyone thought this new technique would actually increase pro wrestling's ratings, as they suspected, like much of live sports, it was being undercounted on the old system. But to everyone's grim surprise, wrestling viewership came back much lower, sometimes as low as 20%. Raw is on Netflix, which isn't factored into these reports, but the USA Network's SmackDown and the CW's NXT definitely are. WWE have already made changes to SmackDown's creative team after the show pulled in its lowest regular time slot number in its history earlier this month. And the Wrestling Observer has reported that, behind the scenes, WWE very much sees the ratings as an issue. The Breaker betrayal could have been booked as a hotshot angle to boost TV viewership, especially as the episode of Raw was coming from Australia, and its much earlier start time could mean a lot of people choose not to watch. Having a big moment that everyone's talking about on the WrestleTalk news could make them catch up later. It's so big, I've not even got time to cover Takeshita, who just won the IWGP Heavyweight title over in New Japan from Zack Sabre Jr. But that happened. But back to WWE, here is my review of that angle. It's Monday Night Raw in about 5 minutes. The show opened with the Vision celebrating their winning night at Crown Jewel. Well, with Seth solidifying his position, I guess we're just going to get all of these guys together for the next 6 months with the same 20-minute opening promos that achieve nothing, the same introductions, the same interference, the same ending to every episode. Actually, maybe Bron Breakker was right. WWE did a great job of making Seth almost too complacent. He kissed Paul Heyman on the head after the crowd chanted for it. Bronson Reed got a huge home country reaction. Seth told them all backstage later he's on cloud 9 and no one can knock him off. But he also said how there's nobody on his level and he doesn't need Breakker, Bronson, or Heyman. He actually meant that he'd chosen them, rather than he was just using them to get himself to the top. But Bron didn't seem to take it that way, subtly flashing a look of frustration that expertly paid off later on. Isn't Australia great? Look at all these fish in the sea that definitely won't kill you. The opening match was Dominic Mysterio defending his IC title against He's Taking the World by Storm Penta. This was yet another great showing for Dom, who was really starting to connect with his lying, cheating, stealing babyface gimmick. He teased the 619, which the Aussies have been edging themselves for since AJ Styles blocked Cena's, and ended up winning with one with the ring bell hammer shoved down his boot. Asuka slapped Kairi Sane's bruised forehead for losing their Crown Jewel tag match and then put her in a singles bout against Rhea Ripley. Our second match of the night with a complex, non-traditional face versus face dynamic. Kairi is a face because she doesn't want to fight Ripley and Io, but Asuka is bullying her into it. Rhea gave Sane lots of offense, but Io stopping Asuka's distraction let Ripley hit a riptide to win. Rhea has now beaten Kairi and Asuka in singles and tag competition, but the heels beat her and Io down afterwards, so I guess this feud must continue. Bronson Reed literally squashed That's What a Tsunami Does an already injured Jimmy Uso when Jimmy collapsed in the ring trying to lift Reed up. Breakker ran down for some extra spears afterwards, but Jay, despite saying they should concentrate on themselves earlier, made the save. There's still Uso tension though and maybe Jay getting distracted by this cost him the #1 Contenders main event. Isn't Australia great? Look at all this beautiful scenery where you can die of thirst if your car breaks down there. I don't know how many more Lyra Valkyria, Bayley, Raquel Rodriguez and Roxanne Perez matches I can take. Lyra slapped Bayley near the end, which caused her to fire up and get them the win. What happened to the whole Roxanne seducing Dom story? At least Perez looks like she's doing something different next. She interrupted Stephanie Vaquer's celebration promo, hopefully setting up a title match there. Dominic accidentally got Adam Pearce to book the Judgment Day, finally defending their tag titles against AJ Styles and Dragon Lee next week. And the main event saw CM Punk beat LA Knight and Jey Uso in a good back and forth triple threat, which included a heartwarming crying fan for Punk's entrance. What a loser though, who cries at CM Punk. That's when the Vision came down, where Breakker speared so many people, he also took out his own leader. It was a great reveal coming after the credits fake out spot and just how conflicted everyone looked. It didn't seem like Breakker had given them a heads up. This was him deciding by himself. Heyman was shocked and Bron told Bronson, make a choice. You go with me or not. Reed considered his options for a beat and then tsunami'd the reportedly injured Seth. Paul knows where his bread is buttered, so he raised both guys' hands to close the show. Over the last month, Luke and I have been critical of Paul Levesque's glacial booking pace and his reluctance to capitalize on momentum in favor of way too long, safer builds. The Rock won his first WWF title when he was 26, 2 years after debuting. Bron is currently 28. No WWE World Champions have been born later than 1990. Roman Reigns, 40. Cody Rhodes, 40. CM Punk, 46. John Cena, 48. Even those that feel like new stars are actually in their late 30s. Gunther, 38. Jey Uso, 40. LA Knight, 42. This company is in desperate need of young top stars. And now with their hand being forced to push Breakker earlier than they had planned, hopefully, he's the answer. This week's Raw is 88%. But what about Monday Night War? The series rages on with me versus Luke versus Dan and our first PLE Clash at the Castle, where we watched the most frustrating computer-played ladder match of all time. Click the link in the video description to watch it now. Here's a clip.
It was whoever was fit.
Go on,
guys,
go on,
focus
go on,
up. Ilya Dragunov's climbing.
Oh,
Mick, do something. Mick,
Go on, just.
Pay attention.